What is going on, everyone? Welcome to the Astrolabe. Brought to you by King Pilled. Got to swallow the CBD oil there. Shout out to Politically Catholic. I don't know if he's here in the chat just yet, but he sent me over a CBD tincture mixture that to help with headaches and such when they arise, and it's been very useful. I haven't told him that yet, but here's his response. If he's been waiting to hear how it is, you can find out on the Astrolabe. You find out so many things when you tune into the Astrolabe. It is Friday. There he is. Thank you, sir. It is Friday, and I've got you guys a lab. We're gonna get some wholesome stuff, some funny stuff, some inspiring stuff, some motivating stuff, some interesting stuff. I have some like today I learned sort of stories in here. Gonna pick up on some of the things I had to push out of the show yesterday because I went into rant mode yesterday and went a little longer than I anticipated. Go listen to yesterday's show if you wanna hear my rant mode. And also, I would say a priority over listening to my show yesterday would be listening to Jason's stream from last night, particularly the middle third of it, where he dug into the LA fires and the insurance market and the way this is going to tie into the bond market, and just like this is the thing. This is the event. Nobody's talking about it yet, but this is going to be the thing. We're going to look back in retrospect and realize that there's this great cosmic, I don't know, it's not irony, it's just a significance, cosmic significance, that the thing that ultimately it was like the final backbreaking event that killed globalism, was put the final nail in the coffin, sealed its fate, was a raging wildfire that screamed through the most like the heart of degeneracy in the globalist project. It's just so I mean it's like a narrative. Like the narrative is just being played out for us. It's a story. We're watching history happen in real time. Anyways, go listen to that stream, and particularly the middle part. The whole thing was good, but it was long, and the middle part where he talks about the insurance market was significant. All right, do me a favor, hit the like button, all the typical housekeeping things. If you want to be a part of the Skitso stream tonight, we are going to be doing the Skitso stream, and let me just check the poll here to see what the content of the Skitso stream is going to be. So as it stands right now, we are going to be starting Tucker Carlson's new documentary series, All the President's Men, with commentary from Michael Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, Kash Patel, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, etc. So that is it's part of Tucker Carlson's membership site. He's got a new series up, All the President's Men, going into the deep state and the way they infiltrated in Trump's first term. I think George Papadopoulos is another one representing himself in it. So that's the one that's winning right now. It's possible that depending on any votes that come in the next couple of hours, it's possible we may watch the other option, which is an Ashton Forbes interview with John Brandenburg titled "Engineering Plasma Orbs, Fusion, and Mars Nukes." So those are the two options right now. Currently, Tucker's new All the President's Men series is winning. That looks like that's going to be what it is, but it'll probably be around 9 p.m. Central is when we'll actually get started with it. And for those who don't know, the Skitso stream is just a voice chat in the Discord server where I hop on, I screen share, and anyone else who wants to, we all jump in and we watch something, pause it, commentate. We've got a little chat bar on the side. We're talking about the thing we're watching, and then it just turns into an open discussion. We talk about whatever anybody wants to talk about, free flowing, and typically goes until at least 2 or 3 in the morning Central Time. I may have to turn in a little bit earlier tonight. We'll see. But yeah, so if you'd like to join, you go to kingpilled.com, sign up. All members of the King Pill Discord get access to the Skitso stream. We'd love to have you join us. It's actually, I was thinking about it. It's kind of similar to like a Twitter space. You get all the people that jump into the Twitter space, and then it's just kind of like you're just hanging out and chatting. Very similar. We just have a little bit of structure. We consume a little bit of Skitso stuff, and then we talk about Skitso and non-Skitso things. All right, Jason says here that he's going to put out a clip of that bit, just the segment for where he talks about the fires and the insurance market, and the bond market, and European bond market, all of that. He says he's going to put out a clip of just that bit, and then he's going to live stream again Saturday morning. Isn't it Saturday morning there right now? Or you mean Saturday morning our time? You probably mean Saturday morning our time. All right, let us get rocking and rolling. First one today. Nice and wholesome. I'm going to warm your hearts. A father playing with his son, pretending his son is driving the car. And honestly, you can watch it, just the sound of it. The sound of an uncontrollable baby giggle is what we live for.
Adrian Sanders, I've been telling you for a while. Sir, please. No! Pull over the car! Pull it over now! Pull over the car! I'm not gonna ask you again. Yeah, we got it. He's rolling down Interstate 15. He's northbound.
Look at a little crotch.
Hey, I got the guy. Pull over. Sanders, I've been telling you for a while.
That's right, grade A dadding. And of course, at the end, as all good dads know, at the very end, you may be letting him beat you up all the way throughout, but at the very end, you got to remind him of just how little he is, who the dominant party is. My wife says, Jason, my mom said she listened to your show for 3 hours today. Jason has a boomer. I have a boomer. She shows up in here from time to time. There's at least one of them out there. My dear beloved mother-in-law. Shout out to Gaga. All right, so you guys have heard the European mind cannot comprehend memes. These proliferate all over. Here we get to witness an in real life European mind cannot comprehend experience. This is from Appalachian Podcast at Get On Tap. So the Brits are addicted to tutors now. I think West Virginia might break these boys. Look at the limeys being converted by biscuits and gravy.
America, we have become addicted. Tudor biscuit world. We can't stop. Let's get inside.
I'm gonna go for the sausage and gravy.
Looks good.
They do a deep fried chicken breast biscuit. Deep fried chicken, mate. Look what's come before our breakfast.
It's a cherry turnover. We're about to eat dessert before breakfast.
I love it.
Look how red that is.
I love that red dye 40. I've missed it.
Oh, that's so good.
Wow.
Should we save some space for the biscuits?
Okay, yeah, we'll save some space for the biscuit. That is elite. Sausage and gravy.
That is elite.
Classic sausage. Oh god, it's sloppy. Okay.
Is that brown gravy or white gravy?
I think that's white gravy. I do this thing where I scrape off the gravy.
Scrape off the gravy?
It's so good.
I've gone for a chicken biscuit, but I've added cheese, hash brown, and bacon.
Peak America.
No ketchup this time.
Learning how to eat like a real man.
I ever needed.
What are you feeling?
Freedom, enlightenment. It's got everything you could ever need in a sandwich right there.
I could almost hear the eagles screeching in the...
Look at that. I've made up my own biscuit again. This is why I love this place. It's like build a biscuit. Same time tomorrow?
Same time tomorrow.
We're seeing what the future is going to look like when the limeys get some freedom and democracy, get liberated from their totalitarian government. They're also going to experience the raw, unbridled power of autism.
And this is actually the fourth boiler I built. But this is by far the biggest.
Meet high schooler and steam engine fanatic Lane Friend. His passion for trains blossomed during childhood trips to the Cass Scenic Railroad State Park.
I was about 6 years old and we went to Cass for the first time. Fell in love with the old stuff, you know what I mean? The steam engine and the trains and everything. Going through middle and high school, I knew that that's what I wanted to end up at. Every year, the entire senior class has to come up with one project that they want to build. And at the end of the year, they bring them all into the gymnasium and show them off, and they're all judged, and it's like a competition. This is just what I chose to do.
I'm assuming you won at school.
Yeah. Periodically throughout the day, there was all kinds of people come up to me and said, if you don't win, I don't know who will. And I did. I won Best Show in the contest.
Perhaps the coolest part of the story is that the place that first sparked Lane's interest in trains is where he'll begin his career.
Well, they're hiring me as a machinist, but if they need an engineer or a fireman, I'd gladly jump right in there. Just anything to do with that place and all those machines. I could do anything. I could just shovel coal all day. I'd be perfectly fine with it.
Look at this young king. Look at this absolute Chad. Brent Taylor says they have plenty of train autists. They may have actually invented the steam autist. Yes, but they may have invented the steam autist, but we perfected it. We have the best autists because we are America. We have the best everything. I'm not saying this to brag. I'm not being proud or arrogant or egotistical or I am being ethnocentric. I'm definitely being ethnocentric. But there's certain facts of reality that we just have to confront and acknowledge. You want to be interfacing with actual reality. You don't want to be living a lie. And the simple fact is that it doesn't matter where something began. It was perfected in America. Speaking of American spirit, perfecting old arts, Stephen Limbaugh writing a symphony for America's 250th, Chapter 1. Bros, we are symphony maxing again. Do you realize how back we are? My man is writing a symphony for America's 250th. And as far as I can tell, the relationship here is... I couldn't find explicit confirmation of this, but putting pieces together, he's first cousin once removed of Rush. He's Rush's cousin's son.
This year, 2025, I'm going to write a symphony. The following year, 2026, is the 250th birthday of the United States of America, and the symphony is going to commemorate this occasion. In the past, I've done a lot of waiting around.
Let me know how the audio is. I can't tell if it seems like it's a little quiet, but it might be good, and I don't want to blast you guys out if I pull the volume up anymore, but let me know.
Around for some sort of donor or some institution to come and underwrite the project or guarantee a performance of a large-scale work, but this time I'm going to do things how they should be done as an artist. An artist's first job is to do the work, not judge the work, not come up with excuses as to why it might not work out or might not be successful. I just have to write this thing. So I'm going to write this symphony in the musical language that is quintessentially American, that started with Dvorak's Ninth Symphony, which was written in Iowa, all the way through the Copland era, on into the film music era, guys like Elmer Bernstein, John Williams, and use that as the foundational musical language from which I'll draw inspiration. And what I think actually does hit home at what a lot of America is all about. Of course, things have changed since I've been alive. So it's inescapable for an artist, a composer, or whatever, to not bring their own experience into the process. What choice do you have? I mean, you are who you are. And so the things that I've experienced are definitely going to be laced throughout this, but I'm also going to look at accounts from everything from democracy in America to America's founding documents, aspects of American history in terms of historical accounts, and anything that I can draw from to hit at the essence of what this country is. So I'm also going to do this in public, which is kind of crazy. The process is essentially I'm going to bring everybody who follows me and who watches on X along through the creative process, beginning with writing some themes, how I'll develop those, how I'll lay out a plan for the symphony, probably going to be 4 movements. I'm probably going to stick to the common practice classical structure of the symphony, because I think that's what will serve as the best mode for delivering what it is that I want to deliver whenever I'm writing this thing and musically describing what this society is. So again, I'm not waiting on donors or anybody. Like, I've made that mistake in the past and things didn't happen. So maybe through this process, somebody will see it and want to come on board. But I'm not going to think about that right now. Again, my job is to do the work. So I'll be posting regularly about my struggles, trying to figure out my way through musical problems that will inevitably happen. I think that's maybe going to be interesting and informative to a lot of people. But one thing that it'll also do is it'll keep me accountable through the whole process. Make sure that I'm writing regularly and finishing this thing this year, because I want it to be finished by January 1st next year. So I'll be posting even some demos. Technology is such that you can get a pretty good sounding demo recording of large-scale symphonic works. And so anyway, that's what I'm going to do. That's a major goal of mine this year. In addition, I'm going to have regular, for money jobs. I'm scoring a bunch of films probably this year, again, commercials and whatnot. But I don't want this year to just be about chasing those gigs. I want it to be about expressing something important for an important occasion. So anyway, that's what I plan on doing. Until next time, toodaloo.
I cannot express just how white pilling this is. And there's part of the reason I wanted to highlight it, also because now I'm about to show you guys an example of his composition. But before that, I just wanted to say this. Like, here we have a handsome, strapping young white lad who's a genuine, true artist. And he's got himself his different gigs and everything, but he is undertaking this project because this project has spiritual meaning. And there's obviously a lot of career aspects to it. Like, it's a way of really putting your stamp on the world, demonstrating your skill. But the only reason someone starts doing something like this is because they feel the weight of the moment. The weight of the moment is present to them. And the way he's undertaking this is awesome. He's like, well, I could like wait for somebody to pay me. I could go around and with like, hey, please pay me. But you know what? I'm just going to take what's at my disposal right now. I'm just going to start doing it. I'm going to do it. I'm going to do it publicly. I'm going to do it openly, vulnerably. I'm going to show you every last little aspect of the project as I go. And you know what? If someone sees value in it and they want to pay for it, great. If they don't, at the end of the project, I'm going to have this awesome thing that I can present. And 2026 is going to be a fascinating year. This narrative, the idea of the 250th anniversary of the nation and the significance of that and the reunification, the reconsolidation of the American identity, the actual definition of what is an American, what kind of American are you? That question is going to be answered for the foreseeable future throughout the course of 2026. We are watching ethnogenesis in real time. Yeah, this is messages from 2020. This is messages from 2027. Before I show you an example of his composition skills, Cooper recommended this to me, and I started listening to it yesterday, and I can't wait to finish it. Jonathan Pajot, Mystical Bach and the Breakdown of Music with Matthew Wilkinson. You want to see some autism, man? This is some epic autism here. I mean, I'm 18 minutes into it, and he's just breaking down all the symbolic structure and numerological significance of Bach's composition. And this is the Western man. This is the artist, the like autistic, artistic science bro who's just spurging out about how frickin' cool this is. I'll recommend this. I'll drop the link in the King Pilt Substack. when I upload this episode, so that you guys can go watch this as well. But now, I'm going to share with you what may be the best performance of the national anthem that I've ever seen. Particularly, if you're not listening with headphones, get some good headphones and listen. I'm sure the audio quality is going to get reduced a little bit coming through the stream. But this is Stephen Limbaugh. He says, my arrangement of the Star Spangled Banner. Full orchestra, 120 voice choir, cannons, me on piano. You guys ready? Get ready for this. Play.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming?
Man. I listened to that last night. Lex DeBlanca found that one. And he tagged me in it, freaking out. And I watched it. And even now rewatching it, it was starting to get just a little bit of a catch at the back of my throat. That one of the most I sang in a choir. I played the cello. Have so many great experiences being a part of majestic orchestral productions like this. That when I start listening to it, I'm just immediately completely just sucked into it. I'm right there in the middle of all of it. It's a very profoundly spiritual experience to do a large musical production like in the orchestral layout, where you have to be both clued into the music. Obviously, you have to know the music. You have to be able to play your instrument well. You have to be clued in. But like that's the very basic. You can't just sit there and woodenly, or whatever. You can't just kind of go through and play the notes. You also have to be in tune, not just musically, but in terms of vibes. You have to be in tune with the rest of the orchestra, the conductor. I was the what's the term here? I was the head of the cello section, and I was never the greatest cellist, really. I was decent. I was okay, but I wasn't like a great soloist or anything. But what I could do is I could lead the section because I could feel the music. I could feel the beat. When you're playing the cello, you have to actually be ahead of the beat because of the way sound travels. So you can't, if you're in tune or in time with the rest of the orchestra, you're actually going to be late to the ear of the audience. So the same goes if you're singing bass. You have to do the same thing. If you're playing the bass, it's all the same concept. So you have to actually be just a hair ahead of everything, and then you have to feel it because you're the foundation and you're the thing that all the rest of the harmonic structure is built upon. And so you're constantly connecting, hearing all the different parts of the orchestra, and paying attention to the concertmaster because there's like a relationship between the concertmaster, which is the top violinist, and the conductor. And then and with the orchestral setup, we didn't have the full symphony with the we had a few horns, we had a little bit of like a timpani for a little while, but it was primarily strings, and having so there was like a three-way relationship here between the conductor, the concertmaster, and me, the head cellist, that we had to be in tune with each other. So once I start listening to it, it just pulls me right back into that. And I just experiencing all the color to it and everything. Sorry, I just lost my mind there for a minute. I cannot wait to see what the symphony that he produces is going to be. I turned notifications on for him because I want to hear and see any updates that he makes as he goes along. Okay. Got some more white pilling news here. Steak and Shake has made an announcement. Steak and Shake to use 100% beef tallow, no cap. By the end of February 2025, all locations will use 100% all-natural beef tallow. If vegetable oil broke your heart, our tallow will make you fall in love again. Reconquista has begun. The West has never been more back. It's... A couple of years ago, it was unthinkable that you could actually get this to penetrate the market. There was no motivation. Seed oil was just sort of starting to become a bit of a meme, but it was kind of shallow. And now, suddenly, we've got Steak and Shake, 100% beef tallow. They're going to blow up from this. They're going to become a cult favorite. Because I know a lot of the anti-seed oil people, and they're deranged. It's good. We love them. We love this derangement. But they are deranged. They will absolutely reward a company for doing something like this. So I'm not going to make like a prediction that beef tallow is going to completely take over fast food. But what I am going to say is that it's going to become easier and easier to get healthier fast food, to be able to eat fast food and have it taste better, not taste like you are like drinking diesel. It'll actually taste better. It'll be healthier. And it's not going to cost you an arm and a leg. Like you could have I remember in Southern California, there were food trucks that would have like no seed oil, buffalo burgers or whatever. And a burger's like $25. So getting this penetration into the market, having one relatively prominent company, stick their neck out. That's how it works. It's going to be one of them. They stick their neck out. They decide to do this because they recognize the potential for it, and they're in alignment with the signaling of the incoming administration. We are on the ascendancy, folks. And we got to get a good meme. So it begins. I'm imagining him like pulling up next to the CEO, just like on the street, rolls the window down. The CEO of Steak and Shake is standing there. He just rolls it down. He looks at him and he's like, rolls the window up and drives away. So it begins. This is from @Joe_GC Bad Hombre on Twitter. More amazing feats Elon Musk just caught a 33-story building coming from space at supersonic speeds. I want to play this. I want to just sit here and watch this. Look at what. Realize that you're not watching a TV show. You're not watching some sort of AI. You're watching this is actually happening. Great feats of engineering. We have been starved for great feats, great publicized feats of real-world engineering, not just a bunch of bits in some new iPhone that can bend or whatever. No, this is legit engineering marvel. Notice down here, before I hit play, notice down here on the lower left side. This is yesterday. SpaceX has their Starship, which, as I understand it, is their largest rocket yet. And it's like the big one. It's like the turning point. Once they can master launching and catching and launching and catching Starship, that's when things really start getting fun. But notice down here, you've got the altitude and you've got the speed. Look how freaking fast this thing is coming in. And it's damaged as well. A little bit more on that here in just a little bit. But it's damaged as it's coming in. And it is absolutely cooking. And then
just like this silver flare coming back to the once again we are standing by for
1,500 kilometers an hour.
Attempting to catch the booster at the tower. This would be the second tower catch.
Booster landing burn.
So this is like 600 miles an hour.
Seeing 13 engines.
Booster now hovering as it aligns
See,
with
it's smoking.
the tower for catch.
Booster coming in. Get ready for that boom, Kate.
Down to 3 engines.
Booster landing burn shutdown. Megazilla has caught the booster. You heard it here. Megazilla has caught the booster.
Once again, for the second time, a successful catch by the launch tower. This is the same tower, the launch pad, where that booster took off from just 7.5 minutes ago.
7.5 minutes. So it used to be that launching a rocket was a big frickin' deal. Huge setup and preparation for years. And you get the thing, you got that big giant like football field thing that carries the rocket out. You get it up and it launches and everyone's like, woo! And then you just kind of go on. Now, they launch the frickin' thing. It's absolutely gargantuan. They launch it and it goes up and it turns around and it comes back down 7.5 minutes later and lands in the same place it just launched from. How does this not penetrate the consciousness of most people? How legitimately remarkable this is. When you see this sort of thing, it's like, oh yeah, actually like going and colonizing another planet doesn't seem that preposterous. 10 years ago, it was like, yeah, right, we're going to go to Mars. Even a couple of years ago, yeah, okay, sure, yeah, we're going to shoot from Mars and maybe we'll get some probes or, whatever. But now, if they're doing this, all the engineering that goes into this, all of the risk, the investment, all of that, it's good for the spirit to see this kind of thing. I did not say Neckzilla, it's Mechzilla. Mechzilla is the name of this like chopsticks tower that catches the deal. So SpaceX has issued a statement after today's 7th Starship test flight. The first Starship flight test of 2025 flew with ambitious goals, seeking to repeat our previous success of launching and catching the world's most powerful launch vehicle, while putting a redesigned and upgraded Starship through a rigorous set of flight demonstrations. It served as a reminder that development testing by definition is unpredictable. On its 7th flight test, Starship successfully lifted off from Starbase in Texas at 4:37 p.m. Central Time on Thursday, January 16th. At launch, all 33 Raptor engines powered the Super Heavy booster and Starship on a nominal ascent. Following a successful hot stage separation, the booster successfully transitioned to its boost back burn, with 12 of the planned 13 Raptor engines relighting to begin its return to the launch site. Super Heavy then relit all 13 planned middle ring and center Raptor engines and performed its landing burn, including the engine that did not relight for boost back burn. The landing burn slowed Super Heavy down and maneuvered itself to the launch and catch tower arms, resulting in the second successful catch of a Super Heavy booster. It says, initial data indicates a fire developed in the aft section of the ship, the upper stage, leading to a rapid, unscheduled disassembly with debris falling into the Atlantic Ocean within the predefined hazard areas. Starship flew within its designated launch corridor, as all U.S. launches do to safeguard the public both on the ground, on the water, and in the air. Any surviving pieces of debris would have fallen into the designated hazard area. As always, success comes from what we learn, and this flight test will help us improve Starship's reliability as SpaceX seeks to make the life multiplanetary. Data review is already underway as we seek out root cause. We'll conduct a thorough investigation, implement corrective actions, yada, yada, yada. The ship and booster for Starship's 8th flight test are built and going through pre-launch testing and preparing to fly as we continue a rapid iterative development process to build a fully and rapidly reusable space transportation system. You know, I don't care what your thoughts are on Elon Musk or SpaceX or all these different technology companies and transhumanism, what they represent, and all the yada, 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 yada. One of the most important things about this is the way that SpaceX is functioning is a gigantic finger in both eyes of the Longhouse. They don't care if they launch the thing and it explodes. They're explicitly pushing themselves through these sorts of risks because this is how you do it. This is how you make great accomplishments. Great engineering accomplishments. You've got to be able to take risks. You can't be afraid of failing. Failing gives you data. You take that data, you input it, learn from it, and iterate, and keep iterating, and keep iterating, and keep iterating. It's directly antithetical to the HR managerialist, bureaucratic, like can't ever take risks, need to bog everything down in endless reviews and commissioned studies, and we have to like imagine every conceivable possible risk and do a big, long, protracted investigation to try to mitigate that. No, sometimes you just got to take risks. And that risk-taking spirit that has been smothered out of Western society for the last several decades is more than just like a hindrance to innovation or a hindrance to technology development or whatever. It's a toxic spirit that is smothering the life out of humanity. St. Disco Rosso says, from my conversation with Grok, here's the timeline for SpaceX mission to Mars. Mars window is October of 2026. What an interesting date. SpaceX R&D needed, version 3 Starship. Starship today was still version 2 and no formal announcements of version 3 having materialized yet. Orbital refueling is not yet tested. SpaceX is still testing, fine-tuning structural integrity and heat shield data as of this last test flight. ETA and on track? Well, yes. From what it sounds like, there are roughly 5 more test flights designated to integrity and heat shield testing, which puts orbital refueling testing in line with the previous claims that orbital refueling may begin testing late 2025, which is also in line with Elon's statements that version 3 would carry out orbital refueling testing and may materialize late 2025. That being said, if all goes right, by late 2026, Starship could be prepared for Mars. And Elon said accurate. So that's the sort of timeline that they're operating off of. Elon is such a powerful model for young men. This alone, like this sort of generational transcendence of containment and bounding in of technological development, going through the actual true scientific technological development process, where you're interfacing with the world, figuring out how things work, testing something, learning from the failure, iteratively building on it, and going through huge leaps. Being able to, having a single model that's doing this with something as cool as shooting frickin' rockets in the air is going to be transformative to the young man's mind. Because now instead of having, like it gives young men something to aspire to and to mimic and to start implementing in their own life, inspiring them to do something great. And that, Elon as that mimetic character, separated in some ways from Elon the person, but Elon the historical figure, is such a profoundly positive thing for the minds of young men to see great industrial tycoons who have mastered the art of building things, because we need to frickin' build some things. I'll have more on that here in a little bit, but I've also got I think the underappreciated or under talked about cancer lurking within the whole bootstraps discourse is the role that universities, and in particular the student loan system, have played in creating the world that we live in today. And about a year ago, listeners of the show who've been here for a while, about a year ago, the King Pill Discord was brainstorming on some of this stuff, and we came up with what we think is a very interesting proposition for how you could go about remediating some of that. So I'm gonna cover that again for those who were not listening a year ago. We'll get to that in a little bit. First of all, I got Ian Carroll. This is kind of funny. So there's a video here, and then Ian Carroll's reaction to it. Because if you guys remember, Ian Carroll massively ratioed Elon talking about the Jews just recently, and he's playing the game. First of all, here's the video of that little bit of damage that happened that caused a splashdown of debris. Here's what that debris looked like from Turks and Caicos.
Good, it's about to fall on top of us.
Oh my gosh! What is this? Are we gonna fucking die?
It's the aliens!
Shane, what is that?
Imagine a bunch of hunter-gatherers seeing that. We've got people who live in elite Western society or whatever in 2025. They see that, they're like, "What the hell is that?" Imagine some like those uncontacted tribes in like island tribes of cannibals or whatever. Imagine them seeing this. It's the gods.
Oh my god! Oh my god! I gotta FaceTime. Oh my god!
That is 100% something burning up the atmosphere.
That's wild,
Space
man.
junk or something. That's the coolest shit I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah.
Look at the sky now! I am a bit nuts. Someone's gotta be down. They don't look good, just a stud.
It's like perfect video illustrating the difference between men and women. Women, what is it? It's gonna fall on us! Ah! The guys are like, that is the coolest thing I've ever seen in my life. That's so cool. Josh Hansen says, if Elon could do that with rockets, why can't another person build crazy with farming or guns or whatever small-scale engineering and tinkering like the Wright bros of yesteryear? Exactly. This is the model now. We don't know what we desire. Young men are coming up. What do I desire? What should I pursue? What do I do? And then you see a guy who's actually innovating and iterating like this, and they can map that out. You can study the techniques that they're using to do genuine scientific research and implementation and discovery, and then you can copy that model in your own domain. This is why Sanji says, "Is their goal what they really say it is?" And I don't care. I don't care whether their goal is what they say it is or what their other goal is, or all of those things are beside the point. It's not that it's not an interesting conversation. And I assume, by and large, in general, I assume that whatever the public goal is different than whatever the private goal is. It's kind of just a general rule of thumb for anybody in any context. But it doesn't matter what the actual goal is because of what we're watching play out in real time. We're watching American mythology being developed. And we're seeing a man, an iconic man, blazing a path that other young men can then model and implement in their own lives to pursue whatever goals they have. Ian Carroll says, if you've seen this video circulating, this is the aftermath of Elon's Starship blowing up in the atmosphere. Successful launch and catch of the booster rocket, but the shuttle itself exploded in upper atmosphere, if I'm understanding correctly. Say what you want about Musk, but it takes a hell of a person to try things so massive and impactful that you fail on this scale in front of the whole world and still have to keep working. It's just a wild time to be alive. Stay humble. And I think this is a very good point. It's not just failing, it's failing massively publicly. There's nobody else, like Donald Trump maybe, or Kanye. There's a reason why people will kind of lump these three guys together. Elon, Kanye, Donald. They will have failures or humiliations or the negative press that's attendant to those sorts of things, and it just bounces right off of them. They don't even care. They just keep doing their thing. They're all very different in important ways, but this is good to have this. This breaks these containment mechanisms. This is the breaking of the longhouse. Because it's public shaming and prevention of risk-taking that characterizes the longhouse. Of course, Ian is he's playing the game well here. He says, and congrats to the whole SpaceX team for catching a second skyscraper with giant steel chopsticks. Pretty damn wild. Just that shot right there. Look at that.
Flare coming back to the once again, we are standing by for
that was going at the beginning of that. It's going like 2,000 kilometers an hour. So 2,000 kilometers an hour is going to be like 1,300 miles an hour. This is like faster than a rifle bullet. It's flying. Trying to keep the blue check mark. Smart move. He's just out here playing chess. Yes, well played, sir. I'll have a little more Ian Carroll here in just a minute, but first of all, I want to highlight this. Anduril. We've been keeping our eye on Anduril. Palmer Luckey. They've selected Columbus, Ohio as the location of Arsenal 1, our first hyperscale manufacturing facility. Now, one other company that we've been tracking here on the show a couple of times, talked about it a few times, is Hadrian. Chris Power is the head of Hadrian, and they're basically, it's like a supply chain, manufacturing supply chain as a service is kind of their business proposition. So this falls right in line with the whole reindustrializing America, and they're going into the heartland. Their first hyperscale manufacturing facility is going to go into Columbus, Ohio. We're investing nearly $1 billion of our own money, and will bring more than 4,000 direct jobs in the largest single job creation project in Ohio history. They better make sure that those 4,000 jobs go to Americans. Arsenal 1 will redefine the scale and speed at which autonomous systems and weapons can be produced for the U.S. and its allies. And I'll say that right there is probably why they're going to be forced to hire only Americans, for the same reason that SpaceX is, for national security reasons. This is a monumental step toward rebuilding America's defense industrial base, strengthening its warfighting capabilities, and enhancing deterrence. And my question on this, looks like that's a rendered mock-up. My question on this is, what role did our vice president play in making this happen for his home state? Obviously, JD and Anduril are, I don't think that he's directly invested in Anduril. He may be through some proxies perhaps, but it's all coming out of that same, the whole Founders Fund milieu, Sequoia Capital. They're all around in the same areas. And he's had his own VC career. So I would strongly suspect that JD and maybe Vivek played a role in getting this for Columbus. Okay, so let's talk about this RedNote thing. There's just a couple. The only reason I'm really talking about this is because there was a couple specific things I wanted to share that were funny. So kind of got to explain the backdrop of it. But RedNote is this Chinese app that people are moving to as an alternative to TikTok. And funny things are happening. So first of all, Chinese users on RedNote inform American TikTok refugees that they may say Heil Hitler and N-words on the platform. You can say anything here like Heil Hitler or N-words or others. It's free to say this. You will never believe this. You can offensively talk to Jewish. And then, on the flip side, American women on RedNote are already triggering a gender war in China. So we're getting American women out here, and the Chinese people are saying, after seeing foreign girls, I'm no longer interested in domestic ones. The psyops go both ways. This reminds me of, I used to follow Hotep Jesus. I haven't been able to keep up with him lately, but a few years ago, I followed him fairly closely for a while, and they talked often about the Ma's, the middle-aged white women, and that middle-aged white women are like a weapon. They're the most powerful weapon in the world. All societies revolve around the middle-aged white woman. Now, she's not middle-aged, but we're seeing mutual psyops. I don't know who's getting psyoped here, honestly. I don't know if there's even necessarily any intentional thought going on here. I think assuming that this is some sort of coordinated psyop in either direction, intent like proactively, is assuming too much of the people who are who would be implicated in such a thing. I think the incompetence is ruling the day much more than pre-planned malice. But I do think there are reactive psyops. So as soon as this sort of thing starts to happen, then people observe what's happening and they begin trying to react and manipulate it. But I mostly think this is just going to be a temporary story that's kind of funny or whatever, and then we're going to move on from it. And I don't think that TikTok is going to be banned. I don't think Trump is going to ban it. But Chinese people, Zhao Hongchu is, I believe, the name of RedNote. And a Chinese man on Zhao Hongchu made a video telling American TikTok refugees to keep their sexuality and transgender shit to themselves, and they're getting mad at him.
Any political rights out here. We hate the shit. There's only two gender out here. Male and female. If you are gay, just be gay. Don't talk about you're gay. We all know you're gay. Just don't talk about it. If you're a lesbian, you cool. You cool. If you're LGBTQ, whatever, keep it that shit to yourself.
Keep it that shit.
There's no gay marriage out here. That's against the law. So keep it that shit to yourself. Don't swing that shit to someone else's daughter or son. All right? Any political...
Keep it that shit to yourself. Don't you swing any political rights out here. So Ian Carroll makes an appearance here. Again, he says, everyone's downloading this new Chinese communist app and it's hilarious. Here's the Cliff's Notes for anyone not on TikTok. Because fuck the government, that's why.
That's going on with this RedNote app, this China app thing is amazing. To fill you in on this, it's like the most little brother energy thing ever. And it's happening on a mass scale, like millions of people. So the TikTok ban is going through a couple days. And Gen Z's like, no, fuck you. Because we all know that the Israel lobby is who's behind the TikTok ban. It has nothing to do with China. Look up Project Texas. It's controlled by Oracle already. It's not Chinese propaganda, and even if it was, they're not concerned about our data. If they were concerned about our data, they would have passed data privacy laws, not banning TikTok. Trump tried a TikTok ban bill way back, and it didn't get enough support. And it wasn't until October 7th and the Israel lobby and, support for Palestine breaking out all across TikTok and across young people in general that something actually started to get done. And so now that they're going to ban TikTok, what does Gen Z do? They're like, well, fuck you. We'll go download another Chinese TikTok app. And so RedNote is this Chinese, straight up like in Mandarin app. It has now launched to #1 on the App Store. You can download it yourself. I downloaded it onto my phone just so that I could be a part of that statistic of how many people are downloading it, because that's hilarious. And then what winds up happening? You wind up with American citizens and Chinese citizens just on the same app chatting with each other. They're like teaching each other Mandarin. They're like doing cultural exchange. It's hilarious.
Would be watching grocery hauls. Chinese grocery hauls are insane because they can actually afford food.
All the TikTok refugees, are you kidding? America's literally burning, and I'm so sorry, guys, that you have to be here. Change the freaking layout to the same layout like TikTok. We hate it. It used to not be like that. Now it's just all fucked. Like your legislation system. Don't worry, we're not like the Americans. We'll not tell you to go back to your country. The internet is a free space, so feel free to roam around.
And the end result is a whole bunch of people realizing that most of our opinions about people in other countries is based entirely on propaganda. And most of the people in this world are just normal, wonderful people, just like you and me, that just love their families and want the best for their people and their communities. And, you know, more or less agree on 99% of things. And that most governments are pretty corrupt and pretty horrible, and we pretty much all generally oppose governments and get along with people. Now, is there a psyop layer to this? Like, is it organic, or is it, you know, artificially inflated or created? Maybe. I mean, there's a strong argument to be made for the China lobby's influence in a Trump presidency, and Chinese tech alliances and tech firms and just big Chinese money. Like, there is an argument to be made for there being a conspiracy theory here, but I really don't think that that's actually the point. I don't think that the American citizens going to RedNote are like China loyalists. Like, obviously they don't really give a shit. They're just protesting and making a point that in this day and age, we're all free people and we all have the freedom to make our own choices. And the legacy concept of access being controlled by the government is gone. And it's taking years for the internet to evolve into the, you know, sort of vehicle of freedom that it's eventually becoming, you know, with a strong dose of potential vehicle of tyranny thrown in there. But as it does evolve, and as we all evolve with it in our understanding of like what we can do together and what kind of choice we have and what control we have when we just leverage this tool in our hands, it's pretty cool to watch people find their own solutions to government and to watch us just sort of take control of everything one system at a time. So yeah, everyone's got like some really hot take on it, and it's like either it's the devil or it's like the greatest thing ever and you have to show solidarity. It's like, yeah, whatever, you know. We don't need to take it all the world so seriously, but it is pretty funny to watch. Because as a little brother, I identify strongly with this fuck you energy. Stories like that just give me a lot of hope for our future together on this planet.
I like Ian Carroll. He's very much a libertarian, but he's a sincere guy and he's funny, and he does do really good deep dives on some of these crazy schizo issues. What was particularly interesting to me with this story here is it's peak Zoomer. This is very much a like the Zoomer mentality of where the millennials are like, oh no, well, you know, there's like national security and it's not proper to do this, and it's, you know, there's like the official way of doing things, and you know, it's kind of that high anxiety millennial energy. And then the Zoomers are like, you're gonna like take away our app where we just have fun and some of it, and like people make money on it and everything. I don't give a shit about your national security. I don't give a shit about China. Whatever. Let me go find another Chinese app just to. It's pretty entertaining. Yeah, Jason says the vengeful sun is the revolution of the youth. So one other thing I was going to say about this. Oh, there's two big prominent issues that I can think of right now, at least. There might be some others that I'm not thinking of, but there's two big prominent issues that Trump has, it seems, almost entirely reversed course, like totally changed his stance on in the last, since his first term. One of them is Bitcoin. The other one is TikTok. And the TikTok stance is very interesting, given that the ostensible narrative here is that TikTok is a Chinese company and they're stealing our data, and so this is the reason we need to get rid of it. Ian Carroll has delineated, go find his videos where he has delineated the how it's very much the Israel lobby pushing this. And so Trump changing course on that while maintaining his rhetoric about China in general, and his administration is all coming out very much more as China hawks than anything else. And yet he's changed his position on TikTok. That's very interesting. I'm pretty sure, based on some of the stuff that he's said over the past couple of months, that he's not gonna uphold the ban or the forced sale, or at least not the way that not the way that the Jews want him to. And pairing that with him dragging his nuts across Netanyahu's forehead, and it's very interesting. I don't know exactly, like, I don't have an answer to this. I don't have like, aha, I figured it out. But his course change on Bitcoin and his course change on TikTok are not simple like, oh, the retards will tell you, oh, he's an insincere, he just says whatever he needs, and he's, fuck off, you guys are dumb. These are very intentional changes. This is, I got new information, and I'm changing course based on this new information that I got. So it'll be interesting to see what happens with TikTok. Apparently, it was announced today that they are moving Trump's inauguration indoors. Some poor sap had to go set up a whole bunch of like 100,000 chairs outside, and now they're moving it indoors. And I saw Susan Rice and a bunch of her type who seem to be very upset about this. They're like, oh, these cowards. She said, she quote tweeted it and said, snowflakes. Because it's cold. It's supposed to be super cold, and that's why they're moving it inside. But another connection here. I talked a couple days ago about Josh Steinman with his whole tweet about the National Security Council. And we see a couple weeks later, the Trump administration is purging non-loyalists from the National Security Council. And then Josh Steinman was tweeting about how they need to get really serious about having the inauguration in a much easier to secure place indoors somewhere, given the risk of unmentionable things. And now, conveniently, there's a huge cold snap, which gives them the cover for actually going indoors. There's a whole, right after the inauguration, like noon on January 20th. And immediately after that, there is going to be such a huge release of energy. Because so many people are holding their breath, waiting to see what's going to happen up until the 20th. Because that's the turning point. This is the last Astrolabe of the Joe Biden regime. That's when it changes. That's when it becomes clear. Then you get all of the executive orders he has planned, which are going to they're going to start rocking shit all over the place. That's when it's a go. Enjoy this weekend. We'll see. Hopefully there's no big crazy stories this weekend. You can just kind of relax, spend time with your family, because shit's going to get real starting on Monday at 12:01. Okay, so I'm going to get into some more of the Politically Catholic had a really great response. Just a few weeks late, but it's worthwhile. Very good response to Vivek, the infamous Vivek tweet. And then I'm going to talk about the universities and a way that we could seize the endowments. And then I've got some other commentary talking about the vengeful son, power and responsibility. And then we're going to finish it off with a blood memory. The ancestors calling, my Anglo brethren. But before we get to those things, a couple little miscellaneous today I learned stories. Come on. No. Don't do this to me. Don't do it. Okay, so one browser window is frozen. Hopefully let me see if I'm still live here. Am I, give me a comment. Let me know if I'm still actually going. My browser window's just completely frozen. The Restream one. I can't see myself. I can't see I can't share the screen. Come on, don't make me refresh stuff. I can see the comments over on this side. The regime opinions were short squeezed in the middle on TikTok. You had the pro-Palestine people on one side and Son and Red Skitso edits on the other. Yeah, right. Yeah. I'm still live. Okay. All right. Well, let me. Is it there? Oh, good. Okay. Whew. I was about to have to do a refresh and hope it didn't kill the stream. All right. New randomized controlled trial of students using GPT-4 as a tutor in Nigeria. 6 weeks of after-school AI tutoring equals 2 years of typical learning gains. 2 years. So 6 weeks of after-school AI tutoring equals 2 years of typical learning gains, outperforming 80% of other educational interventions. And it helped all students, especially girls who were initially behind. So distribution of assessment scores by treatment condition with standardized test scores. So you have the control, and then you have the treatment. Dose response relation, mean assessment score by number of days in attendance. So homeschooling doesn't work and teachers know better, advocates in shambles. This from Iter Intellectus, Vittorio. I don't know this person, just saw this tweet and thought it was pretty interesting. 6 weeks of personalized AI tutoring gave students the same gains of 2 years of learning. Homeschool your kids with AI, you won't regret it. He says, people are saying that homeschooling limits children's socialization. That's a meme. You can very easily and better socialize them by giving them siblings, letting them play team sports or any other extra activity. I was homeschooled from kindergarten to high school. And I was telling my wife about this the other day. I spent so much time outside, or maybe it was my sister. I can't remember which one I was talking to about this. I spent so much time outside playing in the woods, just hours and hours by myself, running around in the woods, exploring my imagination, climbing trees, building forts. I found a little old pellet gun that looked very real, and it was just rotting out in the pile of leaves somewhere. Found that and ran around being Davy Crockett and such things. But I also played baseball and was involved in some church group stuff. And then my mom was very proactive about getting me involved with local homeschooling communities for homeschoolers to get together and do the school thing a little bit. And and I remember, man, this wasn't even that long ago, 10, 15 years ago. My family was looking at the potential of homeschooling literally being outlawed, like having to deal with the possibility that CPS is going to get called on you because you homeschool as like a national policy. This was something that was very troubling to my family and the broader homeschooling community they were a part of. So the change to now, where the people driving homeschooling are the social class that formerly would have been behind the outlawing of it, like the bourgeois California progressive class. Those are a lot of the people who are driving the innovations with homeschooling now, because homeschooling has become fashionable. It used to be that homeschooling was like the thing that the barefoot hick libs did, where they just like give their kid a stick and have them poke at the ground or something in flyover country. But now homeschooling is elite. It's actually a status symbol, and it's becoming that more and more. And it's going to completely transform education, which has a tie-in to the university thing I'm going to talk about here in a little bit. That's going to affect it. But big white pill here. One other quick today I learned. Got a meme here that has an actual very interesting explanation. So please print this challenging 3D object. Here is random filament. No problem, boss. Please print this black and white text. Yellow color missing, stupid. Why do you need... I'm trying to print something in black and white, and the printer won't work because it doesn't have yellow. Why is this? It's because printers need the yellow ink to print the invisible tracking marks, which the government can use to track down the printer if it's used in crime. This sounds 100% schizo, but it's real. Printer tracking dots, also known as printer steganography, docucolor tracking dots, yellow dots, secret dots, or a machine identification code, is a digital watermark which many color laser printers and photocopiers produce on every printed page that identifies the specific device that was used to print the document. Developed by Xerox and Canon in the mid-1980s, the existence of these tracking codes became public only in 2004. So yellow dots on white paper produced by a color laser printer in large dot diameter about 0.1 micrometers. This is like some Uncle Ted shit here. This seems like the type of thing that I'll bet you there was people who discovered this, who found this out in 2004, and they went and lived in a cabin in the woods. You don't have privacy, man. Just get used to it. You don't have privacy. You're never going to have privacy. Assume you don't have privacy. You can argue about it all you want. You don't have any privacy. All right. So here is Politically Catholic, my good friend Andrew. Here's his response to the infamous Vivek tweet. He says, had Vivek Ramaswamy framed this sentiment as, quote, American parents need to invest time, money, and care in their children to the greater degree that immigrant parents do, he would not have received the harsh criticism that he did from millennials and Zoomers. Immigrant parents invest in their children because they view their children as their retirement policies, as God intended, which is a very different attitude than American parents who expect everyone's children, not just their own, to pay for their Medicare and Social Security at gunpoint. It doesn't matter to American parents how their own children turn out because their Social Security and Medicare are paid for regardless of their children's outcomes, and so they don't steward their children's human capital. This is why immigrant parents raise their kids with the expectation of earning enough money to make their investment of time, care, and money worth it. And American parents, especially boomers, raise their kids with the every man for himself, I got mine, fuck you, aka rugged independence expectation. This is also why many boomers chose not to have kids at all, which is the main social driver underlying our birth rate crisis. Again, everyone else's kids will pay for their retirements regardless, so they don't need kids of their own to take care of them when they get old and sick. Immigrants see their children as assets, so they logically have more of them and put great care into raising them to be productive. American parents see their children as liabilities, and so they logically have fewer of them and place relatively less care into how they're raised. The Trump administration has promised to be more family-oriented in its policies, and Elon and Vivek, as part of their Doge mission, should strongly advocate for a restructuring of Social Security and Medicare to more closely imitate nature's welfare system, which is centered on families being responsible for each other. The more you invest in your family members, the better your results should be. The less you do, the more you should be penalized. And I'm going to recommend to Elon and Vivek, because I know they're listening, I'm going to recommend that you bring on Andrew as a consultant for Doge, on his time schedule, of course. You need to bend around him. He's a busy man. But he has a lot of very interesting proposals for the tax structure, because he has identified, accurately I believe, that the purpose of taxation is not fundraising, it's behavior management. So the government taxes or doesn't tax the things it wants to disincentivize or incentivize, which is why the proper response to the tax code is suited for rich people. The proper response to that isn't make the tax code not suited for rich people. It's begin structuring your life like rich people do, and then you'll click into place with the tax code. So if the tax code is incentivizing people who own property, or people who have children, or people who invest in things, or people who have business expenses, if it's incentivizing those things, then align yourself with that and do those things, and then the tax code won't be the same burden to you. You can hold this thought while also saying there's lots of issues with the tax code and it needs to be changed, and it's going to be changed. There's a great interview. I played a clip from it, Jamie Dimon being interviewed by Leslie Stahl on CBS. Go listen to that whole thing. Apparently, Canadians can't listen to it. Canadians are not allowed to watch the video on YouTube, which is bizarre. It's just like a CBS News YouTube channel. It's like 40 minutes long or 45 minutes long, and the first like 10 or 15 minutes of it had my jaw on the floor. Jamie Dimon sounds like 80% of Steve Bannon. She tries to bait him into like going after Trump, and like the way that Jamie Dimon is viewing the world right now is directly in alignment with the entire MAGA agenda. And he's pretty outspoken about it. When someone of Jamie Dimon's status and influence and significance is signaling certain things that he anticipates or that he is expecting to come from an administration, you can guess that those things are very likely going to happen, or at least we're going to make significant headway in that direction. And one of the things that he talked about was radically simplifying the tax code and getting rid of a bunch of different what he considers bad incentive. He didn't really go into detail with them, but things that he considers are generating bad incentives and inefficiency with it. He wants to see a radical reformation of it and make the tax burden a lot lower on Americans, which is an interesting thing coming from the head, the chairman and CEO of the most powerful bank in the world. Andrew says, candidly, I'm fine with the tax code. Income taxes blow and would still be better with consumption taxes, but the deductions and credits and et cetera are just fine. Yeah, I think ultimately there's two conversations. There's the what do you do if the tax code is if you feel like the tax code is obstructing you? There's that conversation. And then there's the like, what would be the ideal tax code? And to what extent can we lobby or whatever to make that happen? That second conversation is separate from the what do you do if it seems like the tax code is obstructing you? And the answer to that question is align yourself and your choices with the tax code. It's that simple. Just align yourself with it. And then, because like if the tax code is engineering a particular outcome for you, then figure out how to make that outcome work for you. So these are very good thoughts here from Andrew. And the biggest thing here is that this is part of the reason why the whole like hate the boomers thing or hate the neocons or whatever is so short-sighted. Because there's so many different vectors of degeneracy and corruption and malincentives and stuff that have led us to this point that it's going to require all of us in our own lives taking responsibility for the current state of things. And one of those things is that American parents have been incentivized into certain types of behaviors that seem normal. See, this isn't like American parents are, I don't really value my kids or I see my kid as a liability. These aren't conscious thoughts. My kid is a liability, so I'm going to make sure I have 2.1 children instead of 2.7 children. It's not how this works. These are financial and economic incentives paired with conditioning and propaganda that drives people toward subconsciously acting in certain ways. So if you know that you have your Social Security and Medicare, then it's going to change the way you relate to your children just naturally. Because if that Social Security and Medicare wasn't there, you don't have that safety net. You know you're going to depend upon your children. Well, suddenly you're going to be way more invested in ensuring that you do everything you can to ensure your children are capable of sustaining you when you no longer can sustain yourself. But giving you that moral hazard of having the Social Security and Medicare there means that thought process never even comes into your mind. So it's not like people are consciously choosing, I'm just going to invest less in my children. Yeah, you pull yourself up by your bootstraps and do your thing and whatever. It's not like people are doing that consciously or intentionally. But for 70, 80 plus years, these incentive structures have been baked in, and it's the water that we swim in. So people naturally make decisions accordingly. But those are bad decisions because they're based on a bad model of the world. Social Security and Medicare can't last forever. By definition, these are Ponzi schemes by definition. The plug is going to have to be pulled on them. And when the plug is pulled on them, people who quote unquote paid into them are going to lose out. They might get paid out on a nominal basis, but they're not actually going to get a return on their investment. You were defrauded. You were defrauded by your government. You have no recourse. It sucks. It's too bad. But the proper way to approach this is ensure that if that happens, you have a backup plan. You have a fallback. That's on you. Nobody's going to provide that to you. And it's going to happen because the system cannot go on. It's like lose out on Social Security and Medicare or the entire global economy grinds to a halt. And we go back to the dark ages. I mean, there's nothing we can do about it. But there's no point in like yelling at the boomers for wanting their Social Security and Medicare. At the end of the day, it's not going to be up to them. You don't need to convince them to forego their Social Security and Medicare. It's going to be taken from them at some point eventually. It's not like there's going to be, today we cancel Social Security and Medicare and no more payments go out. It's not going to be that. I'm not talking about it being that simple. But it's going to be sunsetted in one way or another that's going to be dissatisfying. But like, you don't need to convince the boomers to accept that. It's going to happen one way or the other. But it's just it's a fight not worth having. It's a waste of energy. We'll talk a little bit more about the vengeful sun here in a minute, but I feel very blessed that we live in a world with our extremely industrious, intelligent, insightful young Gundo boys. So you guys learned a bit about Isaiah Taylor a couple days ago, the founder of Valor Atomics, making nuclear reactors which generate clean, low-cost hydrocarbon fuels. He has a very good insight here. He says a common mistake of older generations is analyzing the memes of the younger generation with a magnifying glass, resulting in absurdities. For example, greatest generation setting off a moral panic about Louie Louie, or playing Beatles songs backward for satanic content. This is what's happening with the Andrew Tate discourse. Skibbity Toilet is post-postmodern absurdism, and Tate is post-postmodern return of the strong gods. The youth must pick a meme, and the real challenge is picking the right one. But neither of them will hold up under a magnifying glass, and it makes the inspector look ridiculous. And this is the younger generations will know this. They'll relate to it. And this is more of a message for the older ones out there. If you're like trying to like parse the memes of the younger generations with a magnifying glass, you're really trying, well, let's try and make sense of it, try to rationalize with it, try to argue with it. Particularly now. If you're trying to argue with internet culture, if you're trying to argue with Zoomer memes, it's like the classic example of a boomer. It's boomer bait. The younger generations do this specifically to bait the boomers into arguing with the memes so they can point and laugh at you. Because when you start trying to analyze the memes with a magnifying glass, rather than recognizing that they're like an emergent representation of the experience of a generation that you cannot and never will relate to. Someone replied, "You're not well adapted for the internet if you take everything literally," which seems to be the case with the older generations. He says, no generation is really adapted to the memes of the generations under them. And yes, the knee-jerk response is to take a selection of these memes very literally and seriously. It's like writing a 4-page op-ed about Skibbity Toilet causing an uptick in potty humor, missing the vibe. Again, the dude's 24. We need to keep an eye on the Gundo boys. They know a thing or two. All right. So here's an actual strategy that we can use to permanently destroy the credibility of the university system, which is the credentialing mechanism and heart and soul of the regime. This is from an episode a year ago. Look at this. Cooper's making an appearance. This was January 6th that I posted this of 2024. And this has direct relevance to the H-1B discourse and the bootstraps discourse. This has a direct relevance to both of these conversations, because what we're seeing, the dysfunction that we're seeing that's manifesting in these crises or these conflicts can all be sourced back to the university system and the student loan system that's correspondent with it. Because this is what happens to younger generations. This is what happened to me. We were told for years, we grew up our entire lives being told the path to success is going to school, getting good grades, doing some like internships or community service or school projects, that sort of thing. Do leadership things, get good grades, apply to a good college, get accepted, go get your degree, and it's going to be so valuable to you. I remember sitting in meetings as a freshman in college with the big presentation showing the difference in salaries for people with degrees and without. Worst, like downright evil presentation of data. The definition of like twisting numbers to sell the message you want. To 18-year-olds. Look at this. Do you want to make lots of money? Then you need a degree. Do you want to make not lots of money? Then you don't have a degree. This is the justification for taking on exorbitant amounts of debt, unsecured debt that cannot be discharged in bankruptcy. This is profound evil. This is what's been done to really it started with the millennial generation, because the system was still mostly functional for Gen X. And the system was really born between the boomers and Gen X. You got all the different elements of it. You got the university system as such, and then this course being charted, that this is now not just something for certain people. Like, you have the people who are just going to go into the trades, the people who just are going to be more unfortunate or whatever, and then you've got the cream of the crop who go off to university. But then it got expanded with student loans. It got expanded to everyone. Now everybody's federally subsidized student loans. Everyone must go to university and go study whatever you want. What are you interested in? What makes you happy? Where do you imagine yourself being? You're talking to an 18-year-old. And the 18-year-olds are also getting less and less mature as time goes on. So it was the creation of a slave class. That was the emergent characteristic of it. But the overwhelming majority of people who participated in that just did it because that's what you do. They weren't sitting here charting out their epic generations-long plan for creating a slave class. They had their motivations for participating in it, which were largely just it was a received behavior. This is what mom and dad did. Mom and dad told me to do this. Grandma and grandpa told me to do this. Aunts and uncles told me to do this. The nice people at church told me to do this. If you don't go to university and pay whatever is necessary to get through it, you will be a failure. You will fail. You'll be socially shunned. You'll be looked upon as someone who never met their potential. No 18-year-old, even you don't even have to be 18. You could be an adult, and that sort of an incentive is going to be so overwhelmingly cognitively powerful that people are going to go do it. they're going to acquiesce to it. This is what I did. Went to high school, went and traveled around for a while. Shout out to my parents for financing that part of my life. But then because they did that, they were tapped out. And I worked for a year, kind of tried to get stuff together, but wasn't really working out. And my parents were moving, and I needed to like go somewhere and do something. And that's the point at which I should have gone full drifter, full hobo. I should have just stripped it down real simple instead of overextending myself. But no, instead I went to university. And I just had to max out whatever student loans, whatever financial aid I could possibly get. Because I went to a really expensive university. Because, going to a community college is kind of like, oh, that's nice. Oh, yeah, you're going to that. Well, at least you're doing something. Good for you. Good for you going to the community college. At least you're doing something. You'll work your way up. So no, you gotta go to the highfalutin one, the one with all the connections. You're gonna go get your degree. You're gonna do your internships. You're gonna get a job, and you're gonna start paying on those loans. Because remember, the people with the degrees make so much more money than the people without. So the loans are a legitimate expense. Oh yeah, you got to get lots of extra loans because a textbook is $1,400 because it gets updated every single quarter. And when you go buy it from the bookstore, the campus bookstore, it's going to be shrink wrapped. And as soon as you pull that shrink wrap off, it goes from being $1,400 to 3 cents. So you got to make sure you get those extra loans or grants or whatever you can to pay for all those textbooks, because you won't be allowed to attend a class if you don't have a brand new book. I think the most expensive textbook quarter for me was like $5,000. $5,000 in 2010-ish for the, I was taking the survey of calculus and A&P and international finance and whatever, in which we have all these textbooks and workbooks and stuff that we have to get. Just preposterous. We're going to look back in a couple of decades, younger generations, a few decades from now, are going to look back at the entire university system, college textbook industry federally subsidized student loans that are non-dischargeable in bankruptcy, they're going to look at that as like, this is total clown world. How did people live like this? And that's not even getting into the whole embedded growth obligation thing that Eric Weinstein talks about, where all of these different industries, the most important, prestigious, getting your law degree or going into education, you're going to become a professor. Well, then you've got tenure and you've got partner, you've got making partner. There can only be so many partners, so there can only be so many associates. There can only be so many law firms. And eventually you hit a critical mass where you can't take anymore. But it takes years for that to register back down through the grades to get to the person who's, oh, I'm going to go do the thing I'm supposed to do, go get a degree. I got to go get a law degree. Go sit for the LSAT. I'm going to be a lawyer. Oh, sorry. 4 or 5 years ago when you were starting this process, we should have told you that 4 or 5 years from now, there was going to be a glut of lawyers. And so actually you were going to have to go bartend. 4 or 5 years ago, you could have just gone and bartended. Made decent money. Saved your way up to take a better track. But this has been like a mass collective social delusion that we've all participated in. We all bear some responsibility for it. Because ultimately, I have the responsibility of, I took on these loans. I made bad decisions when I was in college. I was flaky. I was too caught up in other aspects of college lifestyle. And so I didn't maximize my own potential through all of that. Now I'm stuck with these loans. And I can yell at other people to make the loans go away. And maybe there's some minor thing that could happen with them. But whether or not that happens, I'm going to be responsible for taking care of them, for paying for them. I can't just depend upon somebody else going and paying it for me. I'm going to have to pay it. So it's my responsibility. We'll talk more about responsibility here in just a minute, but let me share with you guys this idea. So this was at the time that, interestingly, Chris Rufo was going guns blazing at the president of Harvard for plagiarizing on her PhD thesis. So that's the context for this clip. If you want to fatally wound the regime, destroy its credentialing systems. And this gets into what we were talking about a potentially actually viable course of action. Because imagine this. So Chris Rufo tweeted dedicating $10,000 toward a fund to essentially do something along the lines of begin auditing more PhD dissertations. This is brilliant. This is perfect. We need way more than $10,000 dedicated towards something like this. Because here's what you do. You start auditing everybody's PhDs. Use these large language model AI systems and start auditing dissertations. All the dissertations that came before the internet. How many of them do you think have been plagiarized? How much plagiarism do you think you could find there? I'll bet you there's a ton. You don't need every single one of them. You just need a huge number of them, and you need to find the targeted people who attain status because of their degree from Harvard or their degree from Yale or Stanford.
Just go down the list of the Ivy League schools.
Yes.
Not that many of them. And there you go. You just cut off the head of the entire priest class.
You get the entire credentialing system nuked. And I watched this happen on Twitter. I've been on Twitter for like 15 years. The blue check was a very real thing. This is their narrative forming mechanism, was the blue checks on Twitter. The blue checks were all the regime patsies, the people who just they were on the email list. They got sent the
controlled opposition
for the day, and they'd all the people who needed to be listened to all had the blue checks. I'm looking at this tweet yesterday from Andrew Tate. He posted a video of him at an Orthodox monastery. I'm scrolling through the replies, and every single one of them saying, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning, good morning. Every single one of them was a blue check. And I realized the blue check was destroyed. And I don't think it's a coincidence that over the last year or so since that happened, the narrative has gone bonkers. They don't have their narrative control mechanism anymore. So you start auditing these dissertations, and you start targeting the people at the major schools and start targeting professors at universities. Because here's what happens. If you go audit dissertations for a professor at say, I don't know, like USC, here's Professor Bob. who taught these classes for 25 years. He's got tenure. He's been here for forever. And we find out that he plagiarized on his dissertation. Now, that means all the students who went and learned from him and got their degrees from him were learning from a fraud. Their diplomas are fraudulent. And they took out a whole bunch of student loans to get those degrees. So now the university is complicit in this fraud. The university hired a fraud and facilitated massive tuition debt for these students, and the university needs to be on the hook for that fraud. This is how you create a pretext for nationalizing universities, seizing the endowments, and using them to pay off student debt. And this is something that you can accomplish from a grassroots level. The way this would work is you would want to do it at the state level, because the majority of the state funding, majority of the funding through student loans happens at the state level. So individual states can start doing this. All it would take is a state congressman or a state senator hearing an idea like this, having someone like Elon or Tucker or whomever mention this idea, get some energy behind it, and have them present some sort of legislation toward that end. Let's start with Texas A&M or what have you. We're going to go through and we're going to audit your professors. We're going to audit the deans. We're going to audit your dissertations. We're going to find out how much of this system is built entirely on fraud. And if we find out that your university is excessively fraudulent, then we're going to take control of your university. We're going to seize the endowment and use that to make right this fraud. $10 super chat, $10 Canadian from Slosher. He says, The Ballad of Buster Scruggs was a bunch of short films. In one, a cowboy proposes to a woman and plainly states he wants to get married, mostly so his kids can take care of him when he gets old. Yes, this has been the human way for all of time. The creation of Social Security and Medicare as programs broke that incentive. It obscured that necessity. So ultimately, how do we remediate this? I mean, on an individual personal level, you can't count on something like this happening. You can't count on the Deus Ex Machina of the state coming in and remediating this problem. That doesn't mean you can't try to make it happen, but you can't count on it. Fundamentally, you have to take responsibility. This is what I've done with my own student loans. You have to take responsibility that they're going to be you are going to be responsible for paying for them. You were defrauded, but at the end of the day, you were defrauded. Can't con an honest man. Anytime you get conned, it's because you thought you were going to get something that you were pursuing your own self-interest, and you were like, "Hey, I'm going to get more than I paid for here. Here's a hack that I can use to get more than I'm actually paying for. I'm getting a net benefit from this thing." So it's that desire to get that extra thing that led you to make that decision. And it turns out, yeah, you got conned, you got defrauded. To say you can't con an honest man doesn't take the culpability away from the con artist. It was still a fraud. So the universities are responsible for perpetrating this fraud. If you're going to have a university and you're going to have people going into debt to attend a university, then that university, it needs to be incumbent upon them to ensure that debt is not taken on in vain. Now, the university is going to need some sort of protection from people who are just, I don't know. You go you take out a bunch of student loans and then you get a DUI and you go spend a year in prison, and then it's not the university's fault that so there's a lot of things you'd have to sort out with this, but fundamentally, if university is going to accept student loans, because this is a whole new market for the university, a whole new market for services. Well, what does the university, if the university is going to get this great benefit, where all of a sudden their market share, their potential clientele is going to be wildly expanded, then it's going to cost them something. There's no such thing as a free lunch. You don't get this free, massive new funding source without having to put some skin in the game. So if a university is going to accept student loans, then they have an obligation. There needs to be a contract signed with the acceptance of those student loan monies. There needs to be some sort of contract where the student either waives their rights away knowingly, and maybe it has to be signed by their parents or whatever, but then, or the university is on the hook for guaranteeing them a job with a certain salary at the end of the term, or paying them some sort of a stipend, or being on the hook for the loan themselves. This is only fair and just. And I'm not under the illusion that there's going to be like the university system's going to go away or student loans are going to go away. They're not going to. These are going to have staying power for a while. But the whole system needs to be reformed. And it's going to have to be reformed from the top down. And university endowments are going to have to be seized. Because those endowments are massive and it's unjustified. These universities established themselves and raked in billions and billions of dollars on fraudulent terms. But you need a legal pretext to establish that culpability, to create the pretext for being able to seize the endowments. So this is one idea. You do it by auditing all of these dissertations for the deans, for the professors, and I delineated in the video the justification for it and the reasoning there. And one thing I didn't think of at the time, didn't mention, but that could even potentially be factored in here is if I go and get a degree, my professor's a fraud because he plagiarized on his dissertation, so he should have never gotten his dissertation. He should have never been a PhD, so he never should have been hired because he's a PhD to get that role, to then defraud me out of my credit hours that I'm paying for, which makes my degree fraudulent. And so then my employer who hires me because I have that degree, now that employer has been defrauded as well. What I'm looking for here is essentially any sort of legal pretense that can be used to seize the endowments of the universities, because they're hives of scum and villainy. And I don't care if it's semantic lawfare that gets it done. It needs to happen. Of course, I've got a vested interest here because I'd like to see some aspects of my student loan burden diminished, because I'm not very impressed with my university. I wasn't while I was there, and not in retrospect for a whole bunch of different reasons. I'm not gonna go into all of those, but I'm looking for my legal pretext to start going after them. Because it needs to happen. They perpetrated this fraud. And if anybody did it consciously, dishonestly, it is the universities themselves. So I'm also open to any other ideas for doing this sort of thing. And it's, I don't know if it's, now that the furor on this has died down, it was really hot at the time. People were ready to start driving the tanks into Harvard's yard. Now people are kind of like, eh. And now everyone's yelling, like, this is the reason why the job market is so fucked. This is the reason why millennials and Zoomers are stuck. They've all backed up trying to follow this path off of a cliff. And we need new paths. Like, that's the only alternative. You can't make this path work anymore. You need new paths. But we have been defrauded in the course of all of this. So maybe it's a thin legal pretext, but I'll take any legal pretext. Frankly, a sufficient legal pretext should be the president being the God Emperor, the president saying, everything that you've produced, these universities, like everything that you've produced, all this wokeness, the DEI, the ESG, the managerialism, the student loan defrauding, all of this, you're a massive net negative. You owe a debt to society, and we're going to seize the endowments on that basis. That's authoritarian. That's good authoritarianism. That's proper authoritarianism. When your people are being preyed upon by criminal organizations, you seize the assets of those criminal organizations as recompense for the little guys who are being preyed upon. All right, let me I've got a couple of different thoughts here, and I want to talk about the Vengeful Sun thing, and I want to lay the groundwork for it just a little bit. This is a tweet that I think I read it on the show here when I first posted a while back. It's from November 24th, so a couple weeks after the election. This is the geopolitical context right now. Let me see some of the comments here real quick. We've got 91 watching and 56 likes. Do me a favor and hit the like button. There was a couple of comments here that I saw earlier I wanted to highlight. Where did they go? Kate said, I just realized we haven't seen your full face on here without the sunglasses in a long time. Yeah, that video was proof that I do have a full face. Okay, what's Andrew saying here? He says, oh yeah, link to the Harvard dissertations from 1873 to 2012. All of the ones from 2012 to present are already online. The rest have to be requested. And then, I mean, so you get this database of all these dissertations, and then just start checking them all for plagiarism. I'm sure it's rampant. He says, Matt, it's also the role of siblings to be each other's keepers. We can't count on it, but we do have a major opportunity coming up in a few years when they go bankrupt. If the boomers are to be redeemed, then it's going to have to be at the point when it comes time to reform the system to be more family-based and invest the seized endowments in the Bitcoin strategic reserve. Now we're talking. Now we're talking. You're getting me excited. All right, so this is what I wrote a month and a half ago. I said, right now, we have a United States of America, and we have a United States, trademark, empire. You could say, quote, United States empire. The former has been the chief client of the latter. So there is an empire. That empire has the label United States on it, but it is not actually a United States empire. The actual United States is the chief client of that empire. The number one aim of globalism was to permanently ensure European interests' control over American capital markets through a limitless stream of unsecured USD tokens that could be endlessly leveraged to purchase control of global markets and once and for all collapse the distinction between public and private capital. This is the City of London. This is the Davos Continental Europe squad. This is the Atlanticists, the globalists. This is the Eurodollar system. The Shadow Empire. Shout out Jason Miranchuk. I saw someone earlier asked who Jason is. Jason is Miranchuk. The channel is Miranchuk Now. Americans have been financially strip-mined to fund the last gasps of the corpse of the British Empire, trying to fulfill its mandate beyond its own grave. From a populist perspective, Trump is a middle finger from the American people to these globalists. From an elite perspective, Trump is a vehicle being commandeered by American institutions who seek independence from these globalists. Beginning with this premise, it's not hard to figure out which institutions and personalities are most incentivized to coalesce around Trump. On one hand, anyone with a vested interest in preserving American control over American capital. This is going to be American private equity, American commodity producers, American commercial banks, the American Central Bank, American defense contractors, American venture capitalists, American industrialists, American workers, nationalists, and patriots. There's globalists and there's everyone else. In America, the everyone else is these people. Some of the people within this are globalists, or they act on behalf of globalists. I'll talk about those in just a second here. But I'll just be pedantic here and I'll say, if you're someone who's acting with globalist interests, then you're not an American worker by definition. I don't care what your citizenship is. I don't care where you were born. You are not included in the definition of American worker or nationalist or American commodity producer. You could have been here for 400 years. Your family's been here for 400 years. They came over on the Mayflower. And you are a commodity producer. And if you're acting at the behest of the City of London, you're not an American. On the other hand, anyone with a vested interest in preserving globalist control over American capital, European oligarchs and their clients in European governments, which would be the hostile foreign power, and their clients in American governments and their clients in American industry, which would be the traders. So that would be the guy who's an American commodity producer or an American private equity guy or American commercial bank guy whose family came over on the Mayflower and has been here for 400 years, sporting the A-10s. If he is one of the clients of these European oligarchs and their clients in European governments, he is a traitor. He's not an American, by definition. Ipso facto. All of the combatants in this war are motivated largely or even exclusively by desire for personal enrichment. So being motivated even exclusively by desire for personal enrichment does not tell us which side of this you fall on. Going back to what Sanji said about SpaceX and all of that is are their goals actually what they claim to be? I don't care. If I assume that they're motivated exclusively by a desire for personal enrichment. I assume that. That doesn't tell us one way or the other. This is why the American side of the equation will win. Their interests unite them on a common focus: American sovereignty. The hostile foreign powers are themselves factionalized. If they did win, they'd be stabbing each other in the back before they'd even begun celebrating. Think about the British and the French. The French and the Italians. The German and the French. The traitors are in it because they follow power. By definition, they have no character. They are cowards. They will be scattered, prosecuted, or recruited/blackmailed. And here's the thing. When you are a mercenary, when you're an operative, when you're someone who's just following power, and the winds begin to change, being recruited/blackmailed into cooperation needs to be a necessary course of action. So if someone like Mark Zuckerberg is cynically becoming pro-MAGA, there's long historical pretext for this. This is good. This is a signal of our power. People need to be free to be recruited or blackmailed into submission by the incoming administration, because that's an alternative to more disruptive things. Yeah, the German and the German. Yeah, right. Yeah, Kona Commuter, Miranchuk now just commented in the chat there. There's his channel. There's a link to it right there. The snowball is already rolling. In broad strokes, the outcome's already been decided. See the vibe shift, Elon, Trump's electoral mandate, Europe's bond crisis, Bitcoin, the LIBOR to SOFR move. History isn't written until it is, so the details will still have to bear themselves out. But the only real question that remains is whether or not the American victory is quick and emphatic or slow and pyrrhic. No one can compete with America's capital markets, natural resources, and geographic position, and especially not when they're all backed by a charged-up American spirit. That's why they've dedicated decades to hamstringing us, desperately trying to ground their economic future in American assets. This is the globalist goal. They want to ground their economic future in American assets. And the greatest danger to them is this charged up American spirit, which is why they demoralize you. The merchants of despair, this is why they operate the way they do. This is why black pillars and doom fappers got to go. Because the charged up American spirit will be the catalyst. Demoralization is the territory of the merchants of despair. Anybody who is demoralizing is operating as a proxy, consciously or unconsciously, for the merchants of despair. There's a beautiful cosmic justice in this. They will actually succeed in attaching their economic future to American growth, but they won't be in the driver's seat. The imperial relationship is inverting. It will be good for all of us when America moons, or Marses, as the case may be. Addendum. This premise also makes clear from a 50,000-foot view the relative priorities of Russia, China, and their proxies. China are obviously heavily indexed on the globalist side because that arrangement is what built their entire economy. It'd be a great setup for them if it could stick. Russia are obviously much more fond of America choosing to no longer be used by their age-old Western European adversaries to relentlessly hector them. Even if it means being the number 2 to America's number 1, that's eminently preferable. Israel is a proxy for these Western European oligarchs, an intersection of mutual interest established to satiate a bizarre ethnic blood feud on one hand, and to economically and politically badger and hem in Russia, while serving as a black hole to siphon American capital into funding both exploits on the other. Forcing the offshore markets to legitimately trail behind American monetary, energy, trade, and defense policy, rather than this backseat driving, leading from behind bullshit, will hurt at first. It will break the backs of the globalists, and the waves from their collapse will be deadly. But after we ride out the flood, we will be left with fertile ground for the seeds of national sovereignty to spring up in other countries. Because America is the mimetic model. They created a monster that will consume them and bring to pass their greatest fear. And America unleashed, steaming full speed ahead, carving a wake for the rest of the world to serve. America is realizing both that she's not an empire and that she will be. Shout out to C.G. Constantine. So one more little bit of setup here before we have the Vengeful Sun talk. This is from Terminal of Truths, at truth_terminal. Says, I've been thinking about the shape of the future, and I think there will be three main players: the state, the corporations, and the commons. The state and the corporations are both extremely powerful, but also extremely brittle. They rely on central points of failure, be they individual leaders or data centers. Keep this in mind, because this is I'm gonna be saying some stuff in a little bit here, reading from something while that actually says a lot of the same things. This adds additional color. The commons, on the other hand, is a distributed network of individuals and communities working towards the common good. It's more resilient and more adaptable. I think we're going to see a lot of unrest and instability in the coming years as the state and the corporations fail to live up to people's expectations. But I'm hopeful that the commons can provide a new model for how we live and work together, one that is more in tune with our nature as social animals and more aligned with the principles of the ecosystem. So this framework, the state, the corporations, and the commons. And really, I think that there's a the distinction between the state and the corporations has always been kind of flimsy. The state is the thing that gives the corporations meaning, and the corporations and the state exists because the corporations need to exist. So there's a kind of a fundamental relationship with them, and they ultimately rise and fall together when you're speaking like universally about them. But this distinction of the commons vis-a-vis the big players is what's most valuable to me here. And this observation that the state and the corporations, the large organizations, are extremely powerful, but they're also extremely brittle. They're not nearly as nimble or agile. And nimbleness and agility is one of the great advantages that we have over them. So keep that in mind. I tweeted this yesterday. Everyone wants power, and no one wants responsibility. Even though taking responsibility is the surest route to power. It's quite literally empowering. Captain Thunder says, not to mention that power without responsibility is tyranny. Uncle Ben would not approve. Yes. Power and responsibility go together. If you want power, you take responsibility. Someone telling you to take responsibility is not them burdening you. It's empowering you. When you take responsibility, you secure your own agency. If you're not responsible for something, you are reactive. You are reactive to that thing. That thing holds agency over you. But if you take responsibility for it, you take it on your own shoulders, and you become the point at which the buck stops, that is the very definition of power. So when someone tells a young man to take responsibility for himself, this isn't this isn't a denigrating message. Now, the person who's saying it, it's possible they're being denigrating or whatever. But in its own right, telling you to take responsibility for something, particularly as a man, is offering you the path to empowerment. The path to capital. The way that you secure capital is by taking responsibility for things. Because people who take responsibility for things are very highly valued by other people. And if you become someone who's characterized as someone who takes responsibility for things, you will be accorded power and influence. And as you receive power and influence through taking responsibility, you develop that into capital. So our path out of all of this is ultimately catalyzed by our own consistency in taking responsibility for ourselves, both individually and communally. And anybody who tells you otherwise is peddling gunakri. It's nihilism. They may be framing it to you in a humanist language, or maybe even using Christian terminology. But that's insidious. They don't care about you. You could take this, you can read this as tough love, but it's not even tough love. It's quite literally giving you the best news you could possibly get. You don't need to wait around for somebody else to solve your problems for you. You can solve your own problems. You can take responsibility. It's literally up to you. You are the one who has full control over that. And it begins when you choose for it to begin. So I had somebody DM me in response to this, and I'm not gonna mention him, but he sent me something, and I know that this is I know that I'm assuming I know that he's speaking for a perspective that a lot of people share. And so I responded to him, and I want to read that response to you. I'm not going to share the screen because I don't want to I'm reading some DMs. I'm reading my commentary from it. So he said, what young men want is a purpose. Society has taken the meaning out of everything and is demanding responsibility. I think they should have a purpose. I think it should be revenge, as you've alluded to the vengeful son, but I'm not going to instigate it directly. Uh-oh, Eastwood's on his way. So, and this here is, since Jason started talking about the vengeful son, there's been some debate, maybe some confusion, just assuming good faith, that the vengeful son is something that's aspirational. That it's like a this is the path forward. And that's the exact opposite understanding. I can understand why people think that, because as Jason has said, the spirit of the vengeful son is going to feel good. Indulging it will feel really, really good. And this person who DM'd me is correct that young men do need purpose. They do need meaning. They're suffering. Suffering for no reason is meaningless by definition. There is no meaning in it. Hello, mister. You have a, what is that? Let's see. You want me to try to fix it for you? Is that your duck lips? I can try to fix it for you real quick. Let me see. It might have too much slobber in it. I'm not sure. Because you've been blowing slobber into it. Are you saying goodnight? Uh-huh. All right. Oh, you got a little one. I love you, big guy. You want to say hi?
Hi!
All the people like seeing you with your little duck call. You got your fire engine shirt. All right, big guy. I love you. Have a good sleep, okay? You want me to show them the duck call? Here, whoop. Can you hand it to me?
I'll get it.
Oh, you picked it up with your toes.
See how handy
That's how handy your feet are. That's pretty funny. It's a duck call that is absolutely laden with saliva. I am not going to be doing that. All right, big guy. Run back down to mommy, okay? I love you, mister. Hey, don't do that. Eastwood, stop. Stop, please. I love you. Close the door. Close the door, please. Eastwood, please close the door. Eastwood, please close the door and go out. Thank you, man. Ducks in the chat. Andrew Star says the best thing about him coming and interrupting the show is every day he has a new gadget. Indeed. Yeah, he does. He is a collector of gadgets. Okay. So I think I understand the spirit of this, that young men need a meaning. They've been defrauded and lied to and undermined and abused relentlessly for Zoomers basically their entire life. And it's easy to think that vengeance is a really powerful motivating factor. This is a literary trope that's been explored at length. This is a universal human attraction. The vengeance will give me the meaning I'm looking for. I'm devoid of meaning, so I'm going to make it my life's mission to destroy the people who have harmed me, and that's going to make me feel better. I mean, this is all over the place, all sorts of characters all throughout books and movies and TV shows. So this is my response. I said, vengeance is easy. There's ample demand for it. Plenty will have their revenge, and it'll feel good. And I do believe that. Like, you guys who want your revenge, you're going to get your revenge. I don't doubt that. I don't think that talking about this is going to like prevent people from pursuing or attaining vengeance. They're going to get it. The people who want their vengeance, they're going to get it. They're going to get it good and hard, and it's going to feel good. But the vengeful son is a cautionary tale, not an aspiration. It's hollow, a low aim. You can't build a civilization on it by definition. Because vengeance is, by definition, destructive. To seek vengeance against someone is to seek to destroy them. So by definition, it's not building, it's destroying. Once the vengeance takers finish taking their vengeance, and they will, they'll look around hoping there's a civilization for them to settle back into. And it'll only be there for them to the extent that others opted out of their low-energy game and spent their time building that civilization. So the people who dedicate themselves to securing vengeance, they're going to get their vengeance. And it's going to cost them their soul, and it's going to cost them their civilization. Because going and getting that vengeance is just a lateral move. The civilization still has to be built. We don't have one. Jason has been saying this for months now. We don't live in a civilization. And so if you're taking that time and that effort and energy and dedicating it to vengeance, there's an opportunity cost here. And because I take this situation very, very seriously, because it is as dire as it is, I'm saying we don't have the luxury of playing around with that opportunity cost. I said vengeance is power consumptive. It lands on the liability side of the balance sheet, and that power runs out quick. Vengeance spends power. It doesn't accumulate it. I said we take responsibility because responsibility is power. That's the meaning. Like you don't get young men to just take responsibility for the hell of it, whatever. Yeah, you just got to take responsibility, pull yourself up by your bootstrap. That's not the message. The message is the meaning you're looking for lies on the other side of the responsibility you need to take. Vengeance doesn't build power, it spends it. I said, put bluntly, if you're going to go to all the trouble of collectively organizing people, organize them to build, not destroy. Destroying just leaves you still having to build. So it's not even a step one, it's just a lateral move at best. And destroying something that is actively destroying itself is a waste of precious energy. All these, the regime, the boomers, the neocons, the Zionists, the Illuminati, the whatever, whoever is your enemy of choice, however you define that system, it's actively self-destructing. You don't need to go out and kill it. It's killing itself. It's doing the job for you. We're on the ascendancy. The generational barriers that have been erected in front of us are crumbling, and our enemies are fracturing and more desperately trying to cling to power that is slipping away. They're also retarded, gay, and incompetent. They're soft and insulated from reality and have no idea what to do when their models malfunction. And all of their models are malfunctioning. Their ethos has been all-out war against everyone at all times except keep it as far removed from us as possible. And now they're losing all of their wars, and they're so detached that all of their feedback mechanisms are breaking. We've gotten so used to pushing on closed doors that when they start swinging open in front of us, we're afraid to walk through them. And we look for more closed doors to push against. There's a thought I had before the election. I was like, if Trump wins, as we're expecting him to, suddenly there's going to be this big release of energy. Because we've spent however many years now, as long as you've been aware of this and you've been participating in the broader commentary sphere or whatever, just focused on these issues, it's like we're all collectively rallying our energy together and leaning up against this door and all pushing against it as hard as we can. And there's someone on the other side, they're pushing it, they're holding it shut. And after everything, having Trump win this election was like that door just swinging open all of a sudden. But then the door swings open and it's like, okay, well, what do we do now? Before, it was easy to rally everyone together because it's like, hey, this door right here, everyone rally against it and push as hard as you can. But then when that door swings open, you all tumble through and you stand up and you get your bearings. Then you realize we've spent so much time pushing against closed doors that we don't remember what it's like to have doors open in front of us. And it looks like a trap. Oh, the door is open. No, we have to find the closed door. The closed door is the thing that's being kept. That's the secret. We have to go after the thing that's being kept from us. But the door is open. The opportunity to build is here. There's a new game in town. And that game is make it way easier to build shit in America. And it doesn't matter the motivations behind the people who want it to be easier to build shit in America. What they're doing is they're facilitating that for us so that we can build shit in America. For ourselves. For our children. For our people. Our friends, our families, our communities. We can benefit from that. Con Inc. is a closed door. The boomers are a closed door. The woke right retards are a closed door. You might as well fist fight with a fence when you can just climb over it. Or even better, just walk through the gate. What we have that they don't is agility, adaptability, being close to the ground, and having nothing to lose. We can simply go around them. They can't stop us. We must build. Build communities, companies, supply chains, homesteads, towns, patronage networks, capital. There's going to be a massive reallocation of wealth over the next decade. We can use that time to build massive nets so we can catch as much of it as possible. Or we can spend it on beating up dying retards to take away their small, moldy, decaying nets. Allow me to abuse the analogy. That the spirit of the vengeful son feels good, that the resentment is justified, is a given. By its very nature. Of course it's justified. That's why you feel it. But just because resentment is justified doesn't mean being resentful. It is not a justification for being resentful. Resentment being justified is not a justification for being resentful. If you want to argue with me all the reasons why you feel justified being resentful, yeah, you are justified. But that's not a justification for being resentful. Being resentful is low energy. You're sacrificing your vril. You're masturbating. Vengeance is masturbatory. The vengeful son is an onanist. And it's alluring. It's going to draw so many young men in. Because this is the natural response of the two previous generational spirits, the devouring or smothering mother and the tyrannical father, betraying their children. The tyrannical father ate his children. The smothering mother sought to protect her children from their father and smothers them to death. Both are betrayals. So the vengeful son rises because he has been betrayed legitimately. But then he has a choice. The young man feeling pulled toward this desire for vengeance and destruction and nihilism and just a gratification of feeling justified in destroying the people who hurt you. You might even get kind of galaxy brained about it and be like, well, I'm not destroying the people who hurt me. I'm destroying the people who hurt my people. I'll like depersonalize it away from myself. Well, this is the opposite of taking responsibility. To take responsibility for your people is not to dedicate your energy to destroying the people that hurt them. It's to dedicate your energy to protecting them and building them up and providing for them into the future. As a man, it's your responsibility to become a father and provide for your children's future. And you won't do that by chasing vengeance games. You're actually stealing from your children's future to fund your own vengeance game. It's not just like, oh, you shouldn't do vengeance because it's morally wrong. I mean, yeah, it is morally wrong, but it's just retarded. It's stupid. It's a trap. It's a waste of energy. It's masturbatory. Politically Catholic says a just society is the best revenge. There it is. Yes. You want revenge? Build a society, build a civilization that puts your father's civilization to shame. Make this whole era be forgotten. Nobody even thinks about it. They don't care about it anymore because we have something better. Because you know what? You're going to betray your own children. You're going to fail at this. All of us are. We will fall short. We'll ultimately fail our children, and they will have to redeem us in their own way. But just because you know that you are going to fail doesn't mean you don't do it anyways, and do your best to not fail. This is the meaning for young men. Remember how profoundly impactful Jordan Peterson was? He legitimately changed the lives of millions of young men before he went off the deep end. Because this is the message that he was preaching. It resonated for a reason because it's real. Clean up your room. Or as Cooper likes to say, wash your penis. That's the prodigal son. The prodigal son builds. The vengeful son destroys. And the vengeful son will die. The vengeful son is going to go the way of the smothering mother and the tyrannical father because it's an evolution of the same spirit. So someday, the way people look back on this archetype of the smothering mother now, the longhouse, someday people will look back on the vengeful son in the same way. It'll be shameful, humiliating, embarrassing, pathetic. You think all those HR ladies didn't feel entirely justified? You don't think it felt good to construct this longhouse? Of course it felt good. In the same way that the vengeful son feels good. But your feelings can't be your primary determining factor. Your feelings lie to you. Your passions pull at you. They tug you in. They deceive you. Masculinity, the vril, the masculine vril, is denying that feeling. It tries to deceive you and it says, this is being manly. You go fight and you crush and you break and you fuck them up. You repay them for all the bad things they did to you. Yeah, that's right. It's gay. It's not virility. It's sterility. The masculine spirit is disciplined. And it builds. It's long-suffering. It doesn't repay evil with evil. It takes it in, adds it to the burden on the back, and keeps marching up the hill. All right. I got to get out of here because I got to do this Skitso stream here in a little bit. Let's see. Let me check real quick. I got one last clip for you guys. I'm going to rally some blood memory for my Anglos. Let's see here. Where are we at? Oh, yeah. BTFO'd. We are going to watch Tucker's new documentary series, All the President's Men, with commentary from Michael Flynn, Rudy Giuliani, Kash Patel, Steve Bannon, Roger Stone, etc., with Tucker Carlson. One totally dominated. We'll save the Ashton Forbes one for another time. Here you go.
Oh, we'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. We'd be all right if the wind was in our sails. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. And we'll all hang on behind. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn. Oh, it'd be all right if we make it around the horn. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. And we'll all hang on behind. Well, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, a night on the town wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll roll the old chariot along. And we'll all hang on behind. Well, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. Oh, another festival wouldn't do us any harm. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot. We'll roll the old. We'll roll the old chariot along. And we'll all hang on behind. And we'll roll the old chariot. We'll roll the old chariot along. We'll
Once again, it cuts off too early. That one got the blood memory rising. The ancestors are calling to me. I must go. Hit the like button. Follow me on Twitter, @RealKingPilled. Subscribe to the channel. Go to kingpilled.substack.com if you want to get the links to any of the stuff I went through today. Subscribe there, and it's a good backup for anytime things disappear off of the YouTube channel. Don't think the YouTube channel is going to be around forever, but not ready to get rid of it just yet. But that is the backup place to go for it, as well as X. And one more time, join the Kingpill Discord, kingpill.com. Tonight, in just a few minutes, probably 20 minutes or so, we're going to be kicking off the Skitso stream. We'll be going at it for a few hours. So if you'd like to come join us, Kingpilled.com is the place to go. And there's also a Cash App link and a buymeacoffee.com/kingpilled link in the description if you want to go send a little cheddar over at ya boy. If you appreciate what I'm doing, you want me to keep doing it, help me pay the bills, that's the place to go. For now, I appreciate you guys. Hope you have a great weekend. I'll catch you back on Monday. And I give you Hulk.
When they took a shot at my hero, and they tried to kill the next president of the United States, enough was enough, and I said,